What's up everybody? GenExDividendInvestor here. In this quick video I'm going to explain why headlines sometimes turn an investor into a day trader, and why good dividend investors know that Lynch was right when he said that in the stock market the most important organ is the stomach, it's not the brain. So I'm going to explain why it may benefit you to not watch videos nor read news articles if you find that doing so influences you to be reactful and immediately trade stocks, or if it keeps you from investing in the first place. So please hit the thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't yet, and click that bell notification. Now I want you to always realize that people like myself who create videos, or those that put anything on the internet, want you to click on their content. The more you click, the better we do. Look at the title I used. What the market is going to do, don't watch. It tells you the core premise of this video, which is not to watch videos that imply they know what the market is going to do, and it compels some people to click on it by saying don't watch. Lots of things increase the likelihood of people clicking on a video, like fear, sex, fast money, etc. The quickest growing finance YouTube channels I've seen are the ones that focus on how you can make quick or free or easy money, whether that's penny stock videos, stimulus videos, videos with stocks that say they'll 100x your returns, or whatever. Being a data guy, I've enjoyed doing different things to see what influences people to click. I actually did a test where I created two different thumbnails for my original Coca-Cola portfolio reveal video to see how much using a hottie would influence my views. This one, which as Borat would say is very nice, did much better than this one. Now you're probably wondering why I didn't use a picture of Coke in a glass with lots of carbonation, but as a YouTuber we face copyright risks if we use certain images, so I pay for websites which have content that is usable for videos. And these two were the best ones I found that I felt comfortable using. There are some gray areas around fair use of copyrighted content, but I'll leave it at that for now. As you might guess, the video with the lady did much better than the other one. Fear also gets clicks, but it can unfortunately drive people away from the markets. I get a ton of questions about people who are too scared to invest these days because of all the negative press they are seeing. So a key point I need to keep reiterating is that no one can predict what will happen in the markets. No one knows when we will have the next crash. No one knows when the next depression will be. Yes, the markets will eventually crash, and yes, we will eventually have another depression, but my issue is not with people who tell you what they think will happen, it's when they act like they know what will happen. And that leads to my concern, which is if you're someone who gets overly influenced by headlines and videos, then you might end up making a poor financial decision, such as never investing. Look, I love following what's happening around the world, so I understand how headlines draw you in, especially the ones which push fear of what might happen. I was talking to my dad a while ago and asked him if the world seemed crazier these days than when he was younger, and he said not really. There are always worrisome things going on around you. In the 50s the Korean War started, and then we had the war in Vietnam. Then we had the Cuban Missile Crisis, where Russia was parking nuclear missiles off American shores, and America was terrified they were going to attack. There was the Chernobyl nuclear plant meltdown. In the 90s we had the Gulf War, and in the 2000s we had 9/11. Then you've got the wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria. And with each of these came headlines which rattled some people away from the markets. Beyond wars and nuclear meltdown, what else can we worry about these days? Well, that robots and AI will take all the jobs, or that global warming will end humanity, or that the dollar is going to collapse, or maybe the US debt will crush us as a country. Perhaps inflation will get so bad that mega economies will turn into something like Venezuela's. There are videos on YouTube with titles like, Has the 2019 stock market crash started? And How the stock market is going to crash in 2019, and Signs before the stock market crash of 2019. I purposefully looked for stock market prediction videos done in and before 2019 because, well, there never ended up actually being a stock market crash in 2019. Go figure that people couldn't predict the future. Now I see videos with titles like The Collapse of Everything, Hyperinflation is Coming, Why America is Entering a Horrific Financial Crisis, and Why 97% Will Lose Everything. I would even go into the pandemic headlines and titles that predict the end of the world. Is anything possible? Sure. Lots of bad things are possible, but also lots of good things are possible, and even if something bad happens, I'm pretty confident we won't just give up, and we'll work harder to figure it out. Every year there are lots of crazy things going on, and that will just continue on as long as you're alive, and of course some events will impact the markets, some materially so, but most just have a short-term financial impact, and then the world continues along. Sometimes we'll have periods of high inflation, and that too will eventually pass. No one knows how bad inflation will end up being, which doesn't mean you ignore it, it just means be aware of how your actions might be influenced by what you read or see. And if you're someone who reacts quickly, then temper your enthusiasm to consume so much media, or work on thinking more before acting. It's often the things that you can't predict that end up really impacting things, like terrorists who fly planes into skyscrapers, or a worldwide pandemic which shuts down economies around the world. But to be balanced, there are much smarter people than I, like Michael Burry, the dude who called the 2008 crash, who a few hours ago tweeted, "People always ask me what is going on in the markets. It is simple. Greatest speculative bubble of all time and all things, by 2 orders of magnitude." I say that not to strike fear, but instead to present a 360 view of possible realities. So what do? Well, I've lived through multiple big crashes, including the dot-com crash, which was the worst one for me as I was overloaded in tech, and I also went through the 2008 banking one. What I've tried to do is build diverse portfolios filled with companies that sell products and services that people want and that I think they'll still want in the future, crash or not. So we crash. Perhaps we fall 50%. I think most of my companies will continue to pay out dividends. I don't plan to sell now or if we crash. Thus, it's important to realize that any company can have periods where things go south, and I recognize that any company could go belly up. Thus, I prefer to own a good mix of stocks and not have too much of my portfolio in any one stock. Lynch once said something like, if it's fallen 50%, how much more could it fall? The unfortunate answer is all the way to 0. Or if something you've bought has fallen 50% and you're waiting for it to get back to where you bought it before you sell it, then that implies you think it will double from where it currently is, and isn't it interesting that you know of an asset that you think will double? Anyways, these days I put a small portion of my investable dollars in various blockchain things, as I see a plausible scenario of it continuing to prosper in the long run. What about the really grim predictions people throw out there? I'm talking about things worse than a huge crash. Well, I think there's a higher likelihood that people will still be buying their McDonald's cheeseburgers 100 years from now than there is the likelihood that McDonald's won't exist, and that the dollar won't exist, and that no one is alive because the earth isn't habitable. Actually, let's pretend the world isn't habitable for whatever reason. I believe in technology enough that we will either geoengineer the earth to fix things, or we will all be living in space. And I for one can't wait for the McDonald's Space Burger meal deal, paid with Birtcoin, a Sesame Street-inspired crypto that someone should create after getting the rights to it. And sure, once we start doing deliberate large-scale manipulation of the planetary environment, you can bet that everyone will freak out, and then we can watch holo videos about how this will lead to Armageddon or whatever. Bad stuff is always happening, but so is lots of good stuff, and I found it rewarding both financially and mentally to be aware of the bad but focus on the good. The sun will come up tomorrow, and when it does, I'm confident that I'll still reach into the medicine cabinet when I do Johnson & Johnson Band-Aids for my son's knees. I'll keep using my Colgate or Procter & Gamble toothpaste. I'll keep watching HBO movies, either on my iPhone or my big screen TV. Yes, I'm one of those crazies that occasionally watches entire movies on a phone since it's so darn convenient and I'm sometimes too lazy to walk over to the TV room. I'm confident that even in a hyperinflationary period, I'll probably keep perusing the aisles at Home Depot, drinking a Starbucks double tall iced caramel latte while looking for the 3M painter's tape I might need. Sure, I've noticed that lumber prices are up at Home Depot these days, but that will probably work itself out over the long run. Either way, my Home Depot dividends have been going up at almost 20% a year, so that helps me outrun most inflation. Honestly, even if the world gets so terrible and ruined, I still bet that my great-grandkids will have fun living in space and playing their virtual reality Xbox 2100 Mars Edition. Regardless of what crazy things are happening in the world, my message to my great-great-grandkids is to keep investing. Just like I hope that you're a buy and hold investor who isn't constantly feared out of your positions, nor are you feared out of investing to begin with. Stay close to your investments and watch their sales and profits and debt trends and such, and take action when you feel it makes sense. That doesn't mean never sell. I actually did an entire video on why I'd sell. But be optimistic and be kind and be realistic. So is inflation here? Sure. Is it going up? It seems to be. Am I losing any sleep over it? Nope. Do I think that on average my companies will flourish? Yep. Can you always find deals in any market? Yep. Is some smart money stockpiling cash? Yep. Is some smart money still owning lots of stocks? Yep. Quoting Jamie Dimon's recent annual shareholder letter, while we don't run the company worrying about the stock price in the short run, in the long run our stock price is a measure of the progress we've made over the years. So play for the long run, don't focus on the short run, don't hyperventilate about maybes and what ifs, own good assets, deal with crashes, and be glad you're cash flowing those dividends without working any more for them. Finally, please hit the thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't yet, and click that bell notification. Now I'd like to shout out my latest Patreon aristocrats who have signed up since my last video. Aristocrats gain access to my dividend spreadsheet that I've used in my videos, and they gain special access on my Dividend Discord chat server, where they can watch my videos before I release them to the public, as well as they can vote on which thumbnails I use for my videos. So thank you PSAP for signing up as an aristocrat. Thank you Eugene L, and thank you Junior. And for anyone who hasn't yet joined my free Dividend Discord chat server, I highly recommend you join it so that you too can talk to thousands of dividend investors on it from around the world, from newbies to self-made multimillionaires. And since you watched this video all the way to the end and Sunday is Father's Day, I'll tell you a funny dad saying that's actually true. Being a great father is like shaving. No matter how good you shave today, you have to do it again tomorrow. Thanks for watching, stay positive, and I'll talk to you again real soon. I am not a financial advisor, and these videos are for entertainment, inspiration, and educational purposes only. Investing of any kind involves risk. I am only sharing my opinion with no guarantee of gains or losses on investments.